today. As 2024 comes to a close, we will be going back and taking a look at a few of the high stakes fights of 2024. The fights in which all the chips and all the dips were on the line. The fights that went on to set up more important fights and set up a lot of things that we are probably going to see next year in 2025. And first, we will start with Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy, Matt, and we are here to go over some of the high-stakes fights of 2024. So as the year comes to an end, you're going to see a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of MMA outlets, affiliates, affiliations, journalists, all of this and more are all going to be doing their year-end wrap-ups, their 2024 year-end awards, submission of the year, fighter of the year, knockout of the year, and we will probably dibble and dabble in that as well. But first, what I wanted to take the time to do is with this series, I wanted to go back and look at a few fights from 2024 that were the highest of the high stakes, you know what I'm saying? The fights that went on to set up other things, set up rivalries, set up things that might have been finished this year in 2024, and some things that we might not see finish until 2025. And so, each one of these episodes is going to cover a different fight. This is episode 1, where we're going to start out with Sean Strickland stepping in the octagon at UFC 297 in an attempt to defend his middleweight championship against Dricus Du Plessis. This fight went down on January the 20th. It took place in Canada. Now, let's just set the scene. We are coming off of Sean Strickland doing the impossible. What all Izzy fans never thought they would see, and those of us who dislike Izzy wanted to see, but we thought this was going to be another easy title defense. We saw in 2023 Sean Strickland go out there and put on a 5-round clinic against Israel Adesanya and take the middleweight championship of the world. This was extremely important because no one thought that Sean Strickland was going to go out there and do this, let alone nobody thought Sean Strickland was going to go out there and beat Israel Adesanya, right? So after Sean wins, it becomes a question of, when's the UFC going to sign this rematch? They're going to give Izzy another chance. They're going to lock him back in the cage, and Izzy's going to do what he should have done the first time and get his middleweight championship back. Not so fast. The UFC pivoted because at the same time in 2023, a certain man by the name of Steel Knox, Dricus Du Plessis, went out and shocked the world and defeated one Robert the Reaper Whittaker. This was in a 3-round affair in which another fight that everyone was like, oh, Rob's going to win, and after Izzy beat Sean, we're going to see Rob versus Izzy one more time. Not so fast. What ended up happening is Steel Knox Dricus Du Plessis went out there, not only beat Robert Whittaker, but he finished him. Okay? He finished the man. So now as we move forward to early this year, January the 20th to be exact, we would see Steel Knox Dricus Du Plessis challenge Sean Strickland for the middleweight championship of the world at UFC 297. Now, setting up the stakes of this fight, it was all on the line here. You had Sean Strickland, a man who's had a checkered past. He said a lot of things that would make you be like, this dude right here. He said some things that you might consider to be racist. He said some things against women, some things against people's sexual orientation and their preference, all types of things. He said a lot of things. A lot of things about politics, a lot of things. He was a polarizing figure. And he went into this fight, UFC 297, against Dricus as the fan favorite there in Canada. Now, Dricus Du Plessis had been in a year, maybe a year and a few months long war, a war of words, I should say, with Israel Adesanya, the former champion. Now, a lot of the waters on this got muddied because, there was a lot said where, a lot of people, speaking about who was the true African, the real African. Dricus speaking from the side of, Izzy mainly resided there in New Zealand. At the same time, there was a lot of racial undertones. A lot of the pot was steered by one Ariel Helwani, on his show to try to drum up views, so to speak, where he took the side of Israel Adesanya. Izzy and Ariel really, really went in on Dricus for like a year and really hyped up this entire deal about, Dricus claiming he was the one and only true African. He would be the first born African champion. All of this, a lot of his words were taken out of context. A lot was lost in translation. It was really a nasty ordeal for a while. That hindsight being 2020, we now see how it ended. And let's just say a lot of the things that were drummed up and a lot of the accusations that were made against Dricus have now been put to rest. But we'll touch on that in a later episode. Nevertheless, Dricus wasn't a liked person at this time. He was liked by me because I didn't like Israel Adesanya. But he wasn't liked by a lot of people. So he was booed a lot there during fight week in Canada. So when this fight is about to take place, there's a lot on the line here. And both men knew they had to prove a point. Sean had to prove that he was a true rightful champion. And he needed to go out there and defend it to show that it wasn't a fluke that he won it the first time. Dricus needed to show that he was a rightful contender. That his win over against Robert Whittaker wasn't a fluke. That he deserved to be where he's at. With that, the fight began. Round one. Round one, every now and then you'll see me looking to the side. It's just me checking my notes. Round one, Sean Strickland really went to work on Dricus with a great jab. It was a long jab. He kept him at range. It was very hard for Dricus to get in close to really land any of his shots or get his offense started. Now, he was able to land a few leg kicks against Sean Strickland, but nothing to really slow Strickland down really stopped him. Strickland just kept sticking that jab out there and trying and really just making Dricus work to get around it, which he really had a tough time doing. It was really hard for him to pull that off. At one point in the first round, he might have been accredited with two of them. Dricus landed 2 takedowns, and definitely one. And this was interesting because the takedown didn't really do a lot to Strickland. There wasn't a lot of damage done on the ground. But I think what that really did for Du Plessis is it really put in Strickland's head that at any moment this dude might change levels on me and take me to the ground. So it was one other thing he had to be worried about. And Strickland kind of has like that, that real straight up and down type of stance. He stands very tall. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, Strickland was putting it on in that first round with that jab. Great first round. Definitely, I felt like Sean probably took that first one. Second round begins. More jabs by Sean. Sean doing his thing. Still throwing the jabs. And he did a great job at using his arm and extending it right at the exact moment that Dricus would throw an overhand right or even a jab. And Sean would stick his arm out straight, almost like a Tyson Fury type style. He would stick his arm out straight between Dricus's arms. So as Dricus punches, Sean's arm is extended in the center. And so as the punch is coming to land, he's getting blocked by Sean's extended arm. great tactic by Sean Strickland. Nevertheless, second round, Dricus starts to land a few shots about halfway through and going into the end. He's starting to warm up with the hands. He's starting to do his thing, right? Another takedown by Dricus as well. Round three, this is when Dricus really starts to go to work. He lands a heavy high kick early in the third round, and he really starts to land a lot of shots on Sean Strickland, right? In between the third and the fourth round, Eric Nixick really goes in. This is Sean Strickland's coach. Really lights a fire on him. Lets him know, hey, man, I didn't like that last round. I didn't like that round. I need for you to go out there, and I need for you to get in his face. I need for you to really work on that jab. And he really gave him some good information, but that kind of lets you know that it was possible that the tide was turning. We go into the fourth round. Fourth round, Sean Strickland starts to really land some good hands on Dricus. Really took his coach's advice and tried to push the pace on Dricus. You know what I'm saying? Really went out there and did that, but at the same time, Dricus would not be denied. Dricus, in my opinion, really started to inch way ahead at this moment, landing a lot of jabs, a lot of shots, swinging that heavy steel knocks, overhand right, trying to lay out Sean. Got another, I think he even got another takedown in that round. Yeah, got another takedown. In between the fourth and the fifth round, Eric Nixick, being Sean Strickland's coach, really hammered the point home that we need this fifth round. We must have this fifth round if we're going to win this fight. And he told him it's now time to drown him. You have to go out there. You really have to put the pace on him. He was insinuating that Dricus Du Plessis was tired. Up until this point, a lot of people question the cardio of Dricus Du Plessis. He actually had a nose surgery to basically open up the air pathways in his nose to be able to breathe due to old kickboxing injuries to being, kicked and punched in the nose too many times, basically. So at this point, a lot of people were unclear if Dricus really had that 5-round cardio. This fifth round had it all. Both men poured everything out of the cup that they had. There was a lot on the line. For Dricus, if he goes out there and he defeats Sean Strickland, this gets him a chance, only as the champion, to step at the octagon and to back up a lot of the things he had said about Israel Adesanya. On the other end, this gives Sean Strickland the opportunity that if he beats Dricus Du Plessis, he has a one title defense under his belt. And then when they would sign the rematch between him and Israel Adesanya, it put him in a better position to go out there and to try to prove the naysayers wrong that the first fight with Izzy wasn't a fluke and that he could beat Israel Adesanya. This was the moment. You know what I'm saying? All the chips, all the dips were on the line for this. You know what I'm saying? If Dricus loses, he's going to take a few steps back and everybody's going to be like, see, I told you, he wasn't that top level contender yet. He's definitely not in the league of Adesanya. Get him out of here. If Sean loses, this sets up a deal about, well, I don't really know if Sean is really that dude. I think Izzy had an off night. As these two men went out there, let the fists fly, and waged war against each other in the fifth round, one man would emerge the middleweight champion of the world. And that man's name is Still Knocks Dricus Du Plessis, as he goes out there and wins by decision, defeating Sean Strickland. In real time, I had scored this fight 3-2 in favor of Dricus Du Plessis. This fight has been very polarizing since it happened. You have a lot of Sean Strickland fans believing that Strickland edged out Dricus just slightly and should have took the fight 3-2. You have a lot of Dricus Du Plessis fans that believe Dricus won 4-1. I personally believe Dricus won 3-2. This is still a fight that is argued to this day. To this day, it is still argued on who was the rightful and true winner. But on this day, on January the 20th, 2024, Dricus Du Plessis would emerge the champion. As we fast forward to now, we are, a little bit over a month away from these two rematching for the Middleweight Championship of the World in February 2025. So, we will see where all of this will play out from here. You know what I'm saying? We will see what Dricus Du Plessis answers with in his next fight as we dive back into the high stakes fights of 2024. Stay tuned. In our next episode, we will visit the battle for Africa as Dricus Du Plessis stepped in the octagon, middleweight champion, and made the attempt to defend against Israel Adesanya on the next episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I check you next time. Peace.